We're here for an emergency edition of Patriots Daily. A quick hitter here as we have some Patriots news, some unfortunate Patriot news, unfortunately, to get to, as it sounds like the Patriots are officially out of the Brandon Aiyuk sweepstakes. A quick reminder, we are powered by Game Time and Prize Picks. Head over to Game Time, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase, and head over to Prize Picks and use code CLNS for a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Terms apply at both. So Taylor, let's talk about it. It was like 48 hours or 2 nights ago where we kind of got a bombshell in the towards the midnight hour that the Patriots and the Browns had frameworks in place with the 49ers to send Brandon Aiyuk to those teams. It was basically coming down to where Aiyuk wanted to go. There was a 24-hour sort of Aiyuk watch around here. We were talking about it all day at Patriots camp yesterday. We obviously hit on it on our shows. Kendrick Bourne wasn't at practice. We didn't know if that had to do with it. Matthew Judon got taken off the field. We didn't know if that had to do with it. There was all these moving parts. And then last night around, I think it was 10:30, Adam Schefter of ESPN reports that the Patriots had pulled themselves out of the sweepstakes. They were no longer going to be involved in trade talks. He mentioned that they sort of had this idea that they wanted to instead move and look towards their younger receivers that they had in-house. And basically immediately after that, San Francisco Bay Area, NBC Sports Bay Area reporter Matt Maiocco added some context and basically said that the deal was in place. The Niners agreed to it. All the money was there, but Brandon Aiyuk did not want to be a New England Patriot. So that's basically the facts now. I think Cleveland might still be in play, but realistically, the more news comes out and ideas sort of surface, it looks like Brandon Aiyuk wants to be a Steeler at the end of the day, and that's what this is going to come down to. So first of all, empty your thoughts. What do you make of it? What do you make of the Patriots being out? And what do you see is next for this team in terms of getting a number one wide receiver?
So the positive is that Elliott Wolf is playing hardball. He's really trying to get these veteran receivers with a proven track record in the NFL. Calvin Ridley, I like that he stepped aside because it was a 4-year deal. I think it was $92 million. I just think it was too much for a player like Calvin Ridley, who is, in his 30s. He has a bit of a history of inconsistency versus Brandon Aiyuk. And as we said in our joint crossover pod, like he and CeeDee Lamb are two of the guys where you're like, yeah, whatever you got to give, pay them, whatever. They are elite talents. They're only 26 years old. They're in their prime, all that good stuff. So I like that Elliott Wolf is kind of bringing what we've all been wanting as outsiders. Like, be competitive. Really try to get these guys because they're not easy to get. You can draft them, obviously, but you're not always going to be in position to do that. And this is a roster that has a lot of needs. So being able to check one thing off at the game's second most important position is pretty great. But, that's the positive. Elliott Wolf is serious about getting talent. Matt Crow as well. We heard his philosophy back in 2022. Once these wide receiver contracts started to boom, I know Mike G already asked him about it, and he said, yeah, you have to be aggressive. Now we're seeing it.
Right. I'm reading into a report now, too, that it was from last night as well, but, adding context to it from Matt Maiocco in the Bay Area, saying that the Patriots were one team. They had the most money on the table for them, and their proposal topped $30 million per year. So, they weren't messing around here. They were going for it if it was going to happen.
Yeah. And so now we get to why it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's not really any news for anybody. I think it just reinforced what we already knew, that this rebuild is going to be tough for the Patriots because they're going to have to do everything on their own. They're not getting any freebies because free agents and people who want to be engaged in trades don't really want to come here because you get taxed like crazy. The weather can get really awful. It's a really harsh fan base and media base where you're going to be very heavily scrutinized. It's not an attractive destination when you don't have Tom Brady and you don't know that you're in every game because of what he can do on the field. And you're not going to get to learn from Bill Belichick, who can teach any position and has all this wealth of knowledge and obviously has a track record of success. You have an unproven head coach, an unproven offensive coordinator in the sense of play calling. Obviously, he's been an offensive coordinator for quite some time. An unproven quarterback. Jacoby Brissett is what he is, but everyone knows the future's Drake May, and we're talking about long-term
Right, and you don't know what
deals.
they have in him. Right.
You really don't. Even the front office is honestly the most proven commodity they have because they have the benefit of the offseason where a lot of their work is really at the forefront. So it makes sense that people don't want to come here. And I think the Patriots were I don't think they were lying. Like Adam Schefter mentioned, they are excited about the young talent they have at wide receiver. And I'm sure they are. I don't think that's a lie. But it's also like, yeah, it kind of sounds like when you get broken up with. And it's like, no, I broke up with you. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I just wasn't interested anymore. But yeah, whatever helps you sleep at night. Because these young guys, as talented as they are, they have been inconsistent, where Jalen Pope's production's kind of streaky, not all his fault. And Javon Baker, obviously all the talent in the world, but you don't always see him finish plays. And there's a lot of work still to do there. So for all the talent they have, I like the veterans too. KJ Osborne's coming on strong. A guy like Brandon Aiyuk takes you over the top, but you can't get there with all of these huge question marks all over top parts of your organization.
For sure. It's super disappointing. It's disappointing. I mean, for us covering the team, we want to see them, get back to the top. We want to be able to cover a guy like that who is, a top wide receiver in football. And I understand it obviously from a fan's perspective. And I think it's sort of a harsh reality that, is starting to set in where, Calvin Ridley, you're up there, in the deal. And obviously it hit the tipping point where they pulled out, but they were giving the 30 million plus a year. They were the top bidder. They were giving the Godfather trade back to the Niners. They were going all in on this thing. And I heard, our friend Tom Curran at NBC Sports Boston last night talking about, the suck tax. You have to pay the suck tax. You have to go above and beyond just to get him here. And he's not even biting on the suck tax. Like you got to pay all that money, and it's still they don't want to be.
They were going to make him a top 5 paid receiver.
Right.
I think it was $30 million a year. Like you're talking, I think he was going to be right under AJ Brown, if not maybe towards the end of it, they were going to get there. Also, one thing I want to throw in there with the suck tax and everything, it would have been a great deal they had in place with San Francisco, because from what we heard, it was a 2nd round pick, Kendrick Bourne, and maybe there was a little bit of change. You still had your 1st round pick, and obviously you lose Kendrick Bourne, but you get a guy who is the bona fide one. So, as much as we love KB, obviously, kind of doesn't really matter in the end, considering what you got. So that would have been a very shrewd acquisition for the Patriots in terms of compensation.
Yeah, it would have made the chopping block at the back end of the wide receiver room a little bit easier too, because you get Bourne out of there. You don't have to worry about him coming back off of PUP and all that stuff too. It would have helped out the front office. It would have helped out the Patriots, but it does make sense too. You mentioned it, but just to kind of reiterate, where this team is so unproven, they are so unknown. They're coming off a 3-14 season or whatever it was last year, and it's a new head coach, it's a new regime, new quarterback. You don't know what they're going to be, right? Like Brandon Aiyuk comes here, and you're 0-6 6 games in, and that gets slow. That becomes a slog. You're 26, and as much as you want to get paid, you want to win too. So I can see why he might want to go to Pittsburgh, where at least, a proven culture, at least with Mike Tomlin. And yeah, the quarterback position's a little bit of a mess with, you don't know if Russell Wilson's going to play. He's already dealing with injury. Justin Fields. Exactly. Right. They're still winning games. You're still going to be competitive. So it makes sense. It's ultimately too bad. And they're going to have to, this rebuild, you have to now have hit on Polk and Baker. You have to have hit on Drake May. And once there's some tangible things on the field mixed in with a tangible culture that Gerard Mayo builds, that's when you're going to start to see these guys want to come here. If Drake May goes out there and wins Rookie of the Year, or comes in halfway through the season and, shows why he was the number 3 pick and why that arm is so lethal, and why, players want to play with him, that next cycle, which we talked about last night with Barth, with Brian on the show, where it's not over now that Ayuk's not here. There's still going to be other, top end wide receivers that you can go get. And hopefully by that time, you have cemented a little bit more of a culture here that you can actually show these guys and say, hey, this is why you want to come here. Because it's a lot of, I'm sure the conversations they had with Aiyuk on the extension were a lot of, well, if this works out, then here's what we'll be. And if this works out, here's what we'll be. Where Pittsburgh can say, no, this is our culture, and here's why, and here's the evidence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. And I mean, the good thing for Patriots fans is that, yes, they have to prove all these things, but I feel like they're on a good trajectory, because Jacoby Brissett looks like the guy that you wanted. He seems like a win in terms of a signing. Honestly, a perfect fit in terms of your future and your present. Drake May is also coming along. You see the strides that he's been able to make. You hope he continues to build during the preseason. Not going to be linear, obviously, but still, like, all right, you take your hits and then you get better. The young receivers, are all talented. Kayshon Boutte in the mix as well. Demario Douglas looks legit. And then your veterans, KJ Osborne, he looks like, just in terms of a possession receiver, where you throw to a spot and he'll secure it. He'll get 2 feet down and just do the things you got to do. He's solid there. Kendrick Bourne ideally brings that if he can come back healthy. So the mix of veterans and young talent is really starting to mesh, I think, considering where they are. Offensive line is a question mark, of course, but I mean, in the areas where they can control, what's going on, I think there's a lot to be optimistic for as Patriots fans, given where they're coming from.
Of course, I agree, and ultimately now that's what we have to lean on, because as I mentioned, as is the theme of this video, unfortunately, Brandon Aiyuk, Patriots are not in the sweepstakes now. Pittsburgh was out at one point. They're seemingly back in. Maybe the Patriots turn heel and they kind of go and give another offer. I don't think it's going to happen.
Aiyuk turns heel. Maybe Aiyuk turns heel. I don't think they can do anything at this point.
That would be fun. That would be exciting. But as of now, it looks like the Patriots are out. So, again, going to have to sort of lean on those young wide receivers, the veteran guys they brought in, see how that can mesh and mold and build towards this offense so that they can ultimately land one of these big fish in the future. We'll see what happens with all of that. Patriots have a preseason game coming up on Thursday where we'll get to see those young wide receivers get some real game action coming up on Thursday against the Carolina Panthers. Myself and Taylor will be there to cover it all. So make sure you check out all of our content here on Patriots Press Pass. Rate, review, subscribe to the channel. Check us out on social media at Patriots CLNS on Twitter and Instagram, and read all of our written work at clnsmedia.com. Until next time, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we'll see you next time. Peace, y'all.